Welcome to the Geek Homeworld podcast. I am your host, Ed, aka The Savage Tech Man. We talk film, TV, and tech, all from a geek perspective. You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and you can subscribe and follow on YouTube at Geek Homeworld. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be a part of the Geek Homeworld. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode, a live stream, in fact, of another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed Sisovich, and we're here on a Saturday night, March 16th. Should have worn my green, my St. Patrick's Day stuff. A lot of family and friends are celebrating St. Patrick's Day in my hometown. I wasn't able to go down this year. Too much homework and stuff to do. Other responsibilities to take care of. But I'm here with you guys here on a Saturday night. And I wanted to do a live stream. I was hoping to get Digital K-Man from Digital K-Man Presents, but we had some scheduling conflicts and he's doing some family stuff, so he wasn't able to make it. The title of this episode is episode 169, live stream to me, my X-Men, which is, if you are psyched up like I am for the X-Men 97, we're going to talk about that. That's going to be the main focus of this podcast episode. We are in the live stream here on YouTube. It's Geek Homeworld at Geek Homeworld 4248. We're up to about 51 subs, and I want to thank our new subs. And as it is, you get all these subs and then no one shows up for a live stream. It's weird. I did actually schedule this one, and then I do apologize. I'm about 30 minutes behind myself, so I didn't show up on time. So strike two, on my part. But it's neither here nor there. And people don't always watch stuff. They can watch it later. That's the nature of podcasts. And but I'm not sure how long I'm going to stream tonight, but I did want to talk about X-Men, the animated series, which for me has always been the high watermark for X-Men, long before Disney had even thought about acquiring X-Men or Fox or whatever. The X-Men did exist, and they did a fantastic job. Yeah, some of it holds up, some of it doesn't. X-Men, the animated series, ran from 92 to 96. So 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, yeah, it was 5-6 years, whatever. And 92 to 96. And it was, I really enjoyed it. It was a fresh take on the X-Men. It was probably it was during the height of X-Men and comics at the time. During that period of time, and I have to check my stats on this, but I know I was collecting comic books in the 90s, and hadn't really collected them since I was a kid, but I got into it then. And then this series really pulled me in to the whole collecting of comics and all that. So that was pretty cool. And so I thoroughly enjoyed being an X-Men fan. Has always been one of my favorite comic books that I had the privilege to collect and all that. And so I just really was excited and spurred on by this series, the animated series. And of course, we're getting X-Men 97, which comes out in 4 days. It's already actually premiered a couple of episodes, 2 or 3 episodes, and they're very good reviews on them. Of course, we know, if you've been following it like I have, the head writer, creator of X-Men 97 was abruptly fired by Marvel right before the premiere. And, there's been a backlash, and there may still be a backlash because, Disney can't seem to take material how it was and continue it, especially since the show is a continuation. It's literally picking up the next day after the series ended, with Xavier being taken away by Lalandra um, with the Shi'ar, so they could heal his, the attack that was made on him, and I guess the world presumes he's dead, and maybe that's the narrative they're going with because they don't know when and if he'll ever return to Earth. He does eventually, from what I'm hearing, but anyway, so the series talks about that, and sounds like Wolverine or Cyclops' motorcycle just went by, if you heard that in the background. But eventually they get the, eventually Xavier comes back. And, but what I was saying is that with the series, it seems like that they're supposed to be picking up almost like right after those events and Graduation Day, which was then the series finale. So that's why it's X-Men 97, because in 1997 this would have been the next series of it. And production wise, losing the head writer can be very problematic. I think they may have completed the second season. If not, they definitely have all the storyboards and all the story laid down. And he was actually shopping around ideas with the writers and other creators of X-Men 97 for the third season, which I'm excited about. Now, the big controversy before that was Disney going woke, like they tend to do, and they finally I think, turning a corner on that, realizing that, through a lot of their based upon previous films and well, all the TV shows, they're not pulling in the kind of bank that Marvel used to be. I mean, Marvel is almost painting themselves into a corner in a tailspin that I believe they're going to come out of, but most studios couldn't, but they may be able to do that, assuming they make the right choices in story. And it all comes back to story. It doesn't matter about your spectacle and everything else. It's about the story of it all. And so X-Men 97, I'm reserving all kinds of judgment. I'm hearing a lot of negative things beforehand, but I'm hearing people that actually watched it. And from every trailer I've seen, I'm super stoked and excited for X-Men 97. It's something I've been wanting since 1996. I never wanted it to end. I was enjoying this series, even though that last season they had changed animation, and so the animation looked a little wonky, even though now if you look in retrospect it's not as wonky. Maybe it is. Some people say it is, some people say it isn't, but compared to like animation styles of today in 2024 when we're getting X-Men 97, it seems as if the first 5 seasons, that animation doesn't hold up as well. It's kind of clunky looking, but it was of its time. And I don't know if it was cutting edge at the time, but it was good animation. And but I like the spirit of the team, the story they got right. They're making some changes possibly, the whole with X-Men 97, the whole controversy about Morph being non-binary. Well, those weren't, if we're putting this in the time frame of 1997, that wasn't something that was even talked about then. Even if, of all characters, if you had to make someone non-binary, having a shapeshifter to me makes perfect sense, because you'd shift into females, you'd shift into males. So this male character who's non-binary, it would work. There's been obviously some revisions on how women were drawn, especially Rogue. She's not as well built. I don't know how else to say it. She's more endowed in the original X-Men animated series episodes, the first 6 seasons, and she looks different. She looks incredibly smaller in a lot of areas. I don't know how to say that and still seem appropriate, but you know what I'm talking about if you've been following it, and you'll notice the difference if you know. But that's not a deal breaker. None of this is a deal breaker for me. I'm going to watch it regardless. I'm not going to say, oh, I'm not going to watch it because Disney has gone woke again and messed something else up. I like to give everything a chance, even though it seems like, you know, we get a preview or a first episode or two, and it's so promising, like a lot of the Disney Plus shows, and invariably we're let down. There's only been a few series that I haven't felt that way about on Disney Plus, but I've watched pretty much all of them. Um, Absolute terrible is She-Hulk. Was probably the worst. For me, Echo, terrible. I know people that like it. Just wasn't for me. I binged it. Did not care for it. No basis for her powers. Blah blah blah. I could go in particulars, but I'm not going to. Um, and I know people that have worked on some of these shows that I talk about, and but my personal opinion is, what we're talking about here, and well, whoever else comes on the show and wants to voice their opinions are welcome. But it just was not for me, and I wasn't a big fan of Hawkeye. I did think right out of the gate, I didn't like the first two episodes, but in hindsight, I did. Of WandaVision, I thought WandaVision is still the best Disney Plus series that was ever done. Very close would be Moon Knight for me. Now, some people dislike Moonlight. I didn't. I thought Oscar Isaac gave such a great performance in that character as essentially two to almost three characters, if you know the story of Moon Knight. And I knew nothing of Moon Knight going in. Maybe that makes a bit of a difference. I didn't know much about She-Hulk going in. I didn't know of the comics and the fourth wall, and I didn't really have a problem with that. But just the way that show was so poorly written, and because of overscheduling people and working them to death, as we've heard reports of with She-Hulk, the animators and all that, and special effects or whatever, it just looked really bad. Some of that special effects was not top par, certainly not Marvel's best. And the storyline was so incredibly woke that it was almost like anti-male. And I'm not the demographic for that. Maybe some people liked it, but actually a lot of people didn't. But anyway, some other Disney Plus series that I did like, I think Ahsoka was one of the best. And, I've got a little mixed feelings about a few things in there, maybe how it ended. It was just kind of a circle. They just kind of swapped places, Thrawn and Ezra and all that. So, but I still liked it. And I love the Hayden Christensen stuff. Obi-Wan, I enjoyed it more than most people did. We were hoping to get something more, something different. It shouldn't have focused on Leia, even though the young actress that played Leia, she was very, very good actress. And, but like the chase scenes when two guys are chasing her, or two or three guys are chasing her, and they, this little 8-year-old or whatever, you can't catch her. It's ridiculous. So, a lot of that's, some bad storylines, but I wish it would have focused more on Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker. We get Luke Skywalker in the end. If you hadn't seen it, I just spoiled it for you, but you should have watched it at this point. So, but all in all, I liked seeing Hayden Christensen back and getting the love he deserves. The gentleman in Ahmad, I think is his first name, the actor that played Jar Jar Binks. He was, of course, in the prosthetics and stuff for episode 1 and part of episode 2 when Jar Jar Binks was in there, of the prequels, episode 1 and episode 2, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. It was nice to see him become a Jedi. They made him a Jedi, and to see him in live action was pretty good. It felt like a bit of not retribution, but I can't think of the word, but it felt very, very good and very justified to see him get that kind of respect for, playing the roles that he did. And so it was really nice to for him to get that, nod, and, like to see some of the love from the fans. Another thing, and I don't know how I got on Star Wars here, but it's talking Disney Plus. Well, one last thing I saw that I was watching Star Wars Theories channel. He's probably your best Star Wars person out there. certainly dedicated to George's vision of things. He recently did a video talking, and I can't remember the actor's name. I know it, of course, and forgotten now, but he played the young Anakin Skywalker in episode 1 before Hayden Christensen played him from that point on. And Jake Lloyd is his name. But, his mother talked about his psychiatric problems that he had, issues that he's dealt with over the years. And he was never mad at Star Wars, and he got teased a lot for his role as Anakin and stuff like that. But he was kind of too young for a lot of that for it to really sink in. But he had other mental issues that were far more serious. And Star Wars Theory revealed a lot of this in that episode, his latest episode of his podcast or whatever on his YouTube channel. And it's very, very, very sad for Jake Lloyd. Hopefully he makes his mental recovery, and hopefully he'll appear on Star Wars Theory show or somewhere else, and tell his side of the story. I mean, I think the fandom has finally come around a generation or so that they have more love and respect for the actors in the prequels, especially with Disney, the way they took the Disney sequels left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, and a lot of people don't like them. I don't totally dislike them. I still like them, but not to the point that their storyline was true to where it needed to be. And we all know how the fandom got split after Last Jedi. But anyway, we're not here to talk necessarily about that. We can talk about things. If you have any comments or questions, anything please leave it in the chat or whatever. If you've got a good camera and whatever, I may bring you on or into the live stream. Anything's possible. But leave your comments and all that and all that. I'd ask that you subscribe to Geek Homeworld at YouTube on YouTube. At Geek Homeworld 4248, or just go to search for Geek Homeworld on YouTube. You'll find us. If you like this video, please, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, enable your notifications. You'll know the next time I actually announce that there's going to be a live stream. So, like, share, subscribe, ding that bell, do all that stuff. It'll be so appreciated. And thank you for being here. And if you're not watching this live, if you're watching on the replay, feel free to leave comments when it gets posted. And this will also be an audio portion available wherever you get your podcasts. So, this is in podcast form as well. So anyway, I don't know why I did not plan to talk about Disney Plus shows, but the Disney arc made me go that way. But we're here mainly to talk about X-Men. You probably can't see it here. If I point that way, that's probably off screen. Yeah, it is off screen, but we're actually right. I'm not pointing well. Right here is a lot of my X-Men books. You probably can't see it well. I'm on StreamYard here, and this is only a 720p going out because this is the freed version. Why you see the watermark there on the video. So anyway, you're not seeing the best resolution here for this episode, but it's what it is, So anyway, I was going to show like the trailer for X-Men and stuff like that, but that's copyright. I don't want a copyright strike. I'd have to have enough traction on here to even get noticed, but I'm doing things the way you're supposed to do them. So, anyway, we're here to talk about X-Men. And so I've got a lot of the books here. The actual comics, and I have packed away a lot of the comics. Like I said, in the 90s, I was into everything that was going on there, and especially Age of Apocalypse and everything leading up to that, all through that, and then afterwards, and then of course the Onslaught saga, which a lot of people didn't, maybe not so many people look so fondly on. Is one of my favorite X-Men comic runs. I used to know all the writers and illustrators' names. That was the 90s. That was a little bit ago. That was what, 2000s, 2010, 2012. That was like 30 years ago. So, kind of hard to remember all that going back. But there's a lot of that. But on my bookcase over here, I do have a lot of those annuals. I've got everything like the Mutant Massacre. So I think that was in the 80s. Everything like that. And I even have comics. I was even going into almost the 2000s, if not a little farther, with some of my comic collecting. It wasn't just X-Men, but X-Men was always a big focus. And here's where I start talking about my love of X-Men, the animated series. When I started watching it, yes, I knew about the X-Men and all that, and seeing comics, and I was always growing up in Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, and all that. Superman's still one of my favorites. That we haven't really, other than Henry Cavill, we really haven't gotten a proper Superman on screen. Henry Cavill was one of the best, and even some of the ones that, like Brandon Routh, I thought was a good Superman. Not a great one, but Henry Cavill's probably the best we've had since Christopher Reeve. And I don't know if I'll ever forgive DC for letting go of him, but rumor, and spoiler alert, that in Deadpool versus Wolverine, we will see not as Superman, not as Cyclops, as I think he'd be perfectly cast for, but we'll see Henry Cavill coming over to MCU as from another part of the multiverse, from another reality or whatever, coming over not as Cyclops, but as Wolverine. So he could be like a Wolverine variant, which would be very interesting. And I could see him doing that. Henry Cavill is more the Superman physique. He's more kind of, even though it's kind of slim. Digital came in. That's they always call them Wolverine. Always called Cyclops slim in the comics because even though he's a muscular dude, he was still kind of thin. And Henry Cavill's just a big muscular dude, so he may have to lose some weight, or what, not lose weight, but be less muscly, I guess, if he's playing Cyclops. But Hugh Jackman, it's hard to see anybody else in that role as Wolverine, to be honest with you. And just like Heath Ledger coming into the Joker and Michael Keaton being Batman, it just it's so funny that people always, no matter what time it is, what year, or whatever, the fandom is never happy. Oh, Hugh Jackman can't be Wolverine. He's too tall. He ends up being the quintessential. He did it for 14 years at least. Or if you add up him being in the Deadpool film, I don't know, it's even more years, I guess. But Hugh Jackman has become the quintessential Wolverine. He'll always be the best. Like Christopher Reeve will, and it's like of generations that come from, Christopher Reeve will be the best Superman. Henry Cavill a very close second. Not to say I'm not open to seeing the new Superman that we have. I have high hopes for that. I will go see it. Whatever James Gunn does with it. I just like to see the characters being represented in the correct way that they were written. Yes, you can have changes in character arcs. That's fine, but don't change the essential components of a character like they did with Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. But I digress. So, X-Men for me was always fun. It was part of Fox Kids back then, and I think is what they called it. And the X-Men series for me, it was all about Cyclops. I liked the other characters, I did, and all, but I wasn't a major Wolverine fan. Of course, Wolverine, right after I think that came out, or especially in the comics, was starting to become this big hit. And then, then we roll around to the 2000, and we have X-Men, and we have Hugh Jackman showing up on the scene. And by then it was, Wolverine crazy. Everything was Wolverine, and still to an extent is. And Scott never gets the kind of respect. They've pretty much done a shitty job of him through all the live action X-Men. The different incarnations of him. but he's very much not the team leader, not the Boy Scout kind of person that he is, which is why I think Henry Cavill would be great in the role as a leader and, very decisive, very kind of gung ho, very hopeful, very, whatever. Um, and, but we don't necessarily get that. And like Jean in X-Men The Last Stand, which is probably one next to Dark Phoenix, X-Men Dark Phoenix is one of the least performing, well, not necessarily least performing, but least liked of all the X-Men Fox films. I was watching Days of Future Past the other day, and it still holds up. A long film, if you think about it. Really, really interesting plot line, but it was just well executed, and it did a lot to repair the timeline that's not always been so great throughout Fox's X-Men films. I did not hate Dark Phoenix, but at least they tried to do a Dark Phoenix even storyline, and I think they did a decent job. Not a great job, but still watchable. Things I would change about it, but it's what it is. And let's see. So over time, we've had so many different incarnations of X-Men, and for me, like I said, Scott Cyclops was always the hero for me. He was like, I liked that he was the leader, and and yes, he was, even though later on Storm got to lead the team, which I think is also an awesome decision. I hope that I hope that Disney does justice to the characters, and we don't have to see, this is the thing, we don't have to see the women overpowering them, and necessarily it doesn't have to be that way. And I don't mean necessarily their powers. I mean, that's the one of the really good things about X-Men as comics, I should say, because there's several iterations of X-Men. And through the animated series, you always had strong females, and really some of the most powerful mutants are females, like especially Jean Grey or Phoenix. With or without Phoenix, she's still, an Omega level mutant. Storm, her command of the elements makes her an incredibly powerful character, and female character as well. And Rogue, of course, and I guess they desexualized the drawings of Rogue and kind of emphasized her in X-Men 97. So if you put the character up to what she was, and it's gonna not mend so well, but it's different artists, different animators and their interpretation. So they've kind of updated her look, and her look would probably have changed. And even Rogue, even Storm has changed, and Jean to an extent. And I understand that. But one of my favorite storylines is the whole Cable, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and Goblin Queen Madeline Pryor coming into it, a whole storyline, which we're going to get that for the first time in the animated series in X-Men 97, I should say. And so I'm interested to see how that will work out. We'll have the Executioner in X-Men 97. There's another character. Of course, we're going to have Mr. Sinister, which I love Mr. Sinister. Now, here's some nitpicky things. And for me, going through all the X-Men films, I appreciated the sound design, the sound effects specifically. And like X-Men the Animated Series, to me, that sound of Scott's using his, I almost said heat vision, his optic blast. I love that, the sound design on that. And for all the different iterations we've had of like Wolverine and the X-Men, animated series, which was also very good. X-Men Evolution, which was good. Enjoyed both of those series. Of course, their power sounded different. It was different animators, different, people, creatives working on those projects. So it was, different sound effects. But for me, it'll always, the sound of those optic blasts are from the X-Men the animated series, and they in X-Men 97 sound a little bit different. And that's just a minimal thing, but it's a little nitpicky thing. But when you're used to something and it's just a continuation. But I appreciate them bringing back as many voice actors as they could for X-Men 97. It seems like they've done almost everything right. And they were like 98, 99% there. And then you maybe had to go woke. And if they did that and wrecked the whole series, I will be highly upset by it. I do look forward to watching, and I will, all of X-Men 97. And hopefully, I don't know if season 2, do we get it? Is it X-Men 97 season 2, season 3, or is it X-Men 97? This is what I would do. It's changing the show name. I don't think you change it each year, because then essentially it would be a different show. So I guess you couldn't change the name, but it would be cool if they did X-Men 97, X-Men 98, X-Men 99. And then, then we could move into storylines that, if we ever got up to like X-Men or X-24, honestly, which would be funny. But if we ever got into that level of it, then it would be a different thing, then you could get into issues that are today. And like the whole non-binary stuff and whatever else they want to throw in there to make this series seem updated. If we're taking it directly and calling it X-Men 97, we're not calling it X-Men 24, right? Or 2024. It's X-Men 97. So it ought to reflect the technology of that time. It ought to reflect the values and whatever else of that time, the sensibilities of that time, if we're carrying the story forward. And you could see a progression of it. They could jump in the second season or third season, whatever they want to do, up to 2024, 2025, whatever it's going to be, And I would probably be fine with that either way, But the whole idea of keeping the story correct to that time, people weren't talking about non-binary. I don't know if those terms even existed at least in the, lexicon of what people said or whatever. I don't know if that even was a thing or even a thought process for people then. I don't know. I don't think it was. I don't remember hearing terms like that or, and it's not criticizing anyone. It's not, degrading it. It's just like I was saying earlier, and I hope I made this point clear, how we have the strong female characters. You can have and you can write strong female characters. I can think of so many characters like Ripley in Aliens and Sigourney Weaver, obviously in that. But you can have Sarah Connor. I'm a massive Terminator fan. Even the films that people don't like, I like. So Linda Hamilton playing such a strong version of Sarah Connor. And I think of the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I've seen some of those episodes come on, and I know I own at least one of the seasons on maybe DVD or Blu-ray. That was a great series. It went south after a couple seasons, but I still enjoyed it and watched all of it. And I've seen them more than once, a lot of the episodes, especially the first season, which I thought was amazing. And Lena Headey, I think is her name, who later became, was it Cersei in Game of Thrones? She was a strong female character, but the men didn't have to be stupid. That's the problem with a lot of the woke writing now, is that for the last several years, it's been, it's the whole Captain Marvel kind of thing, or Rey from the Disney films. And no, it's not Rey Skywalker, it's Rey Palpatine. But the fact that you can they've been writing female characters and the men basically have to be dumbed down and stupid. And I know it seems something to call it either way, but good storytelling isn't about one character necessarily being better than another character, unless that's really the narrative of the story, But you can still have strong female characters, and and you can still have strong male characters. That's more interesting anyway. And so, that's what we're talking about, having writing stuff the way it should be. Luke Skywalker would never give up what he was like he did in Last Jedi. Even though it's interesting, yes, it subverted expectations, Rian Johnson, but it still wasn't our Luke Skywalker. He was Jake Skywalker at best, a different character, according to Mark Hamill. And I agree with that. I don't have a problem like with Morph being non-binary. I think if any place it makes sense, X-Men, they fight against intolerance and bigotry and everything else. So it would fit well in the narrative of any X-Men series or whatever. It was stuff like that was touched on in X-Men the animated serious topics like that, but it was important to the stories, but it didn't drive the story. I mean, it did to an extent, but now that it's so narratives are pushed on us and messages forced upon us, it's people are turning that off, and I want to see X-Men 97 and whatever iteration it continues to be to continue. I'm all for it, but when you revive legacy characters and characters and you're continuing it, if this were a different series altogether and it had no tie to the animated series, X-Men 97, if that's the case, then that would be fine. If you call it X-Men 2024 or X-Men 24, I'd be fine with that, because that's what's happening in this time and place, and it makes sense. And some people say it's making too much of it, but I don't think it is. I think, you just have to be, because you have this pre-established what's gone before, I feel you need to respect that, Don't bring someone in to write a Star Wars film or Disney Plus show that doesn't know about Star Wars or doesn't care about Star Wars. You should have a love for the lore and what George Lucas created. And then you can, change it, but within reason, and so that's what it is. And I know a lot of people agree with me on that, and I'm not the first to say that. I won't be the last. Will I watch X-Men 97? Of course I will. I'll be there front and center to watch it. I'm like, yes, bring it on. I want to see it. I want it to be done well. I just don't want it to be done wrong. So, let's respect what's come before, and let's honor that. So, but yeah, so I really enjoyed the incarnation, is that the word? The version of X-Men, the animated series. And for me, for a lot of years, I've carried the torch on that, hoping that it would come back, not knowing that was even ever a possibility that Disney could resurrect the series. They did wonderfully that last season of Clone Wars, and Dave Filoni bringing that back. Probably one of the best seasons in tying things together to events of Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. So they did that wonderful. A lot of shows have come back that way. And so there's been hits and misses. And I don't want this to be a miss. I really hold this show, the animated series, very high esteem. And I should have, I'm looking around to see if I can even find, but I had copies on the DVDs, and I did buy, I think, the DVDs back in the day for X-Men the animated series, and I may have some stuff packed away that I don't have out. And I can show you this. This is wow, this is old. Mondays This Fall on Fox. This is what year is this? 2008. This is a Sarah Connor Chronicles. Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Still got the sticker on it, but this is a complete first season. And look at this. It's DVD, unopened. Still in its plastic, because I was collecting this. But I may crack this open to watch it, even though it does come on Heroes and Villains or something, I think is some network we get. And so this is on there, but especially the first season of this. Fantastic. But just showing you, it's one of the things I collect. I've got about every version of Terminator there is, especially Terminator 2, from the steel back to the extended cut and stuff like that. I'm looking real quick here for X-Men, so see if I have the animated series. I think I do. So, here we go. So to prove that, not that I have to prove anything, but here's my collection. And I have some on DVD somewhere else, but this is my X-Men animated series collection here. And there's a lot of different, versions. Interesting, all the different ones that they have. I don't know where to start. I don't know in what particular order. Here is 77 episodes. This is in full screen. When is this? This is a DVD video of it. Oops. But I do not know where I got this. But that's supposedly all of them. That's kind of cool. The Legend of Wolverine. This one isn't really. It does look like the animated series. I feel like this was part of some Pizza Hut thing. I'm not sure. I don't know why or something. I don't remember. But that's cool. Let's see. That's there. That's there. Then I have this as well. This is some of the episodes, but oops, sorry about that sound. That's some more of the animated series there. For some reason, I have 2 copies of it. I don't know why. That's weird. Then we have this one, X-Men: The Phoenix Saga, which is where they put about 3 or 4 episodes in there. When is this? This is from 2000, originally from 1994. So that's interesting. This is like Sanctuaries Part 1 and 2, Weapon X, Lies, and Videotape, and then Proteus's Part 1 and Part 2. Episodes of the animated series we have there. What else? This one I never even opened. The Marvel DVD comic collection. First time on 2-disc DVD. This is volume 2 featuring the Phoenix Saga of X-Men. This has everything from Red Dawn, Repo Man, Externally Yours. Externally Yours was where we had an Eternal on there, and they gave a power to the Thief Guilds, and the whole Gambit episode was a good one. Time Fugitives, which Part 1 and Part 2 with Bishop, and which is one of my favorites. Rogue's Tale, Beauty and the Beast, one about Beast, Mojo Vision. We had Reunions 1 and 2, Out of the Past, the whole Phoenix Saga 5-part. So that was a good one. And a lot of these, like I said, are unopened. That's volume 2. This is volume 3 of that, the Marvel DVD comic book collection. And this is the whole Dark Phoenix, Juggernaut Returns, One Man's Worth, which is about Xavier, Nimrod, and then went back and killed him. It was very interesting. It's a lot of good things. Here's volume 4. Apparently I bought all of these. So I'm hardcore. This has a lot of them. Sanctuary Beyond Good and Evil, Proteus. That's volume 4 of that. Here's volume 5. So they were a little out of sync there. This is where Wolverine goes back and fights alongside Captain America, which is pretty cool. That's Old Soldiers, starring Captain America, was on there. The Phalanx Covenant, parts 1 and part 2 is on here. Long Shots episodes on here. Stormfront. This had Graduation Day, and this came out. Graduation Day was the last episode of the series, and let's see. When was this put out? 2010 is when this came out, so that's kind of cool. This was kind of the end of the series. And oops, here's volume 1 I missed in the beginning. This has Night of the Sentinels, 2-parter, Inner Magneto, Daily Reunions, Captive Heart, Cold Vengeance, Slave Island, The Unstoppable Juggernaut, The Cure, Come the Apocalypse. These are some of that first season. They were hitting it out of the park. Days of Future Past, part 1 and 2, one of my favorites as well. The Final Decision, then we have Till Death Do Us, parts 1 and 2. That's when Sinister, Jean, and him were trying to get married, and Jean and Scott, and then Sinister was doing what he does. And this is this one I opened apparently. So I definitely watched this one to death. I was like, I need to watch this. So back in the day, and it was like, and this is when Blu-rays were a thing, but this was only available on DVD at the time. And I may have a Blu-ray version of this, of the X-Men series. I'm not sure. I honestly, excuse me. I may have a version, as I was saying, I may have a version of this on Blu-ray of X-Men, but I don't think I do. But I might. Sorry. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5. Oh, there's volume 2. So I have all of those. So that's kind of cool. And here's some separate episodes, because they did put out some separate episodes. This is going back a little bit. This one's in 2001. This is Reunions part 1 and 2, and Out of the Past 1 and 2, and No Mutant is an Island. So that was back here somewhere. So anyway, that's that. Oh, and I have one other X-Men thing. I have other stuff, and this is actually on Blu-ray, and I did open this. The 3-disc set featuring all 26 episodes. I think we only had one episode, and back then you'd get 20-something episodes for a season. This was put out. This is on actual Blu-ray. This is Wolverine and the X-Men. Essentially, Wolverine was the leader of the team then. Hence, you can see how popular Wolverine was. With the light, I'm trying to see what the date on this is. This says 2008 is when this came out. Wow. And so this version might be actually 2010. So the series may have been out in 2008. So Wolverine and the X-Men is the complete series on Blu-ray. Definitely worth having, especially if you're an X-Men fan. You definitely want that in your collection. And so I'm trying to put these in order. So give me just a second. Alrighty, so they're not any perfect order, but that's kind of what I got there. So I'll just put that there for a second while we talk. But anyway, so obviously I've been an X-Men fan, and especially the animated series. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on some of the animated series. And as we go along, I wish I could do watch parties, but the episodes are going to be debuting at 3 a.m. and Eastern time, or midnight Pacific time. So I was hoping we get like a 9 p.m. the night before kind of thing, like 19th or the 20th or whatever it was. But we're not getting that for Marvel. So unfortunately, like I think they did with Ahsoka. So we're going to get them just the standard release time. So it may be the next day. It may be that Thursday with school and everything else going on. It may be difficult. I'm definitely not doing any live streams at 3 a.m. in the morning. I should be asleep by then or getting ready to go to school. So that being said, I will try to review the X-Men 97 and give you my thoughts. And I would love to discuss that on the podcast with anybody who wants to come on the podcast as a guest, or, just wants to talk through the live chats or the comments. please leave your comments and on Geek Homeworld, and we'll definitely discuss it all. But super psyched for X-Men 97, and I really hope it lives up and hopefully wants to be nice to exceed my expectations on something, especially when Disney's the parent company of all this. Obviously, the $1 billion film this year, if there's going to be any, it's going to be, if done right, Deadpool versus Wolverine. Oh, gosh, that's going to be so good. I don't know how many times I'm going to see that film, but it's going to be a lot. And I'm sorry, that's not coming out this year. Isn't that next year? I'm upset. Well, when it comes out. I don't know. I've got to see what the release, I've got to look that up. I'm actually going to do that. Because I feel like it's changed. Release date of Deadpool versus Wolverine. Oh, it is this year. Okay, I wasn't wrong. The third Deadpool film will premiere in theaters July 26, 2024. And I thought for some reason it was pushed back to 2025. Well, that makes me extremely happy. I will say that I am over the moon excited about that. So that is something I'm looking forward to it. Sorry, I was looking at my Microsoft points there. That's what that funny look was. They've changed. But yeah, so I'm very excited for the possibilities of that. I think they're going to do a fantastic job, and I hope so. And I talked earlier about some of my favorite characters. Obviously, Scott, Cyclops, but I like Nightcrawler. I like Beast. There were so many different episodes that brought out so many different characters, and you had different story arcs going. So it was some really good writing for a kids animated show back in the 90s. X-Men, the animated series, I think was ahead of its time, and it was a lot more really adult than it was for kids. And maybe that's why I liked it more. So I would have been in my 20s. Yikes. When that was on. Yeah. 92 to 96. I would have been 22 to 26 when that came out. And I saw them all. I probably was still recording stuff, probably on DVD by then, but probably still some on VHS. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember when DVDs became a thing, especially if you could record, because you record off of TV when they came on. But back then, stuff really wasn't in syndication as much. You didn't have streaming services. People today don't know how lucky they are that you can just punch something up in seconds when you couldn't do that back in the day. We had it hard, but that's how it was. With all that said and done, those are kind of my thoughts on X-Men 97. There's probably more to talk about. This could have been a funner episode if I had Digital Caveman here, where we're going to be pulling out which I kind of did here, pulling out our different DVDs and stuff. And I was hoping he would have action figures from the time, and we could talk about, and he could reference you to some of his unboxings that he's done, especially on X-Men stuff. And maybe for another time, we'll be able to get that schedule, get that going. But I do appreciate everybody being here, everybody that bothered to show up for this, and all that. So it's really, this has been fun. It's been a fun episode. So I'm not going to keep you guys much longer, but thank you, everyone. Let me know in the comments here. This is going to go up on podcasts, so wherever you listen to your podcast, or hopefully on a YouTube channel, you'll go and to Geek Homeworld and you'll subscribe. Not to just this episode 169 live stream to me, my X-Men, but you'll subscribe to Geek Homeworld at youtube.com, or on YouTube at Geek Homeworld 4248. That's at Geek Homeworld 4248. And hopefully soon we'll have more than 51 subs to the channel here. When we hit 100, I can officially change the name of the channel to Geek Homeworld, and it'll just be much easier. But you can still search for Geek Homeworld. You go on YouTube. You're all savvy enough to figure it out. You can get there. Trust me. So I hope everybody will go there and leave your comments. And also Geek Homeworld on X, formerly known as Twitter. And we're on there. We do have a Facebook page, Geek Homeworld, and Geek Homeworld Gaming, which I haven't done anything with that because I was trying to get into gaming for a while. But I may go back and do some gaming, get back into it a little bit. I don't know. We'll see. A lot of time is family and school and work and stuff like that. So a lot of things keep me busy. I don't have the time I used to have. Certainly not kind of time we had during the pandemic. But that's something else. Anyway, so thank you everybody who's listened, and I've got to end this now, or I'll just keep yapping away. But anyway, thank you for joining us here on the live stream, and please like, share, subscribe, ding that bell, do all that stuff on Geek Homeworld, and let us know. And this has been Geek Homeworld episode 169 live stream. To me, my X-Men. And thank you, everybody. And now I'll roll the outro here. And thanks for being a part of the Geek Homeworld. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Welcome to the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm your host, Ed, a.k.a. The Savage Tech Man. We talk film, TV, and tech, all from a geek perspective. You can find us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and you can subscribe and follow on YouTube at Geek Homeworld. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be a part of the Geek Homeworld.